Rich Pellegrino, Rich the Equalizer Pellegrino, Global Woke Institute channel, YouTube channel, howwokeami.org, um, and all of our social media pages if you want more uh, uh, beyond these short videos. In this short tonight, I'm going to build on last night's where we talked about our two natures as humans. We have two natures: a spiritual and material nature, or higher and lower nature, if you want to call them. And the world has the same thing, has a spiritual nature and a material nature. And our material nature or physical nature has basically two aspects: good and evil. Okay, the outcomes of our material natures. Okay, that's simplistic, but for the purposes of this, let's just use that. Okay, um, so that's the reality of our existence. If you want, I mean, anything that I say, I can back up with scriptures, with religion, and with science, both. Okay, our mind and our heart, knowing and loving capabilities. So now let's look at the world. And by the way, violence begets violence, no matter what, whether it's personal violence or country violence or gang violence. Violence begets violence. Peace begets peace. That's the reality of our world. Okay, religion and science both prove that. Okay, so let's look at what's happening in the world right now. By the way, violent revolution, just like violence begets violence, violent revolution only produces more violence, a never ending cycle of violence. Okay? The American Revolution was a violent revolution. Our country was born in violence and has never stopped it, has only increased the violence. Okay? We've had genocide of the Native Americans. We've had the Civil War, massive violence and murder and genocide. We had slavery, violence, Jim Crow, violence. Our foreign policy all over the world is violent, okay? Everywhere we go. Violence is our nature. Street violence in the streets, gun violence, the massive proliferation of guns. Violent revolution only produces more violence, a complete cycle of violence anywhere and everywhere. That's what just happened in Israel. Okay? I'm not justifying Israel or the US or anyone because we've all created a world based on violence. We have not paid attention to the scriptures and to true science about peace. Okay? So Hamas starts a violent revolution by attacking on October 7th, and now, Israel is retaliating with genocidal violence and increasing it not only in Gaza but now in the West Bank and Hezbollah in Lebanon and so forth. That's what violence begets. Okay, if the Muslims, the Hamas, if they claim to be true Muslims, which they are not, I've studied Islam. I consider myself a Muslim as well as a Christian, a Jew, and a Buddhist. That's not Islam. Islam is not jihad, violent jihad. Study the history of Islam, okay, and how it was spread. It was not spread through violence. When Muslims say it's a religion of peace, it is. Those that have usurped it are the fundamentalists. They're the same mullahs and religionists that oppress women. Okay, that's not Islam, the oppression of women in the Muslim countries. That's not true Islam. So, militarism everywhere produces violence. That's what October 7th did. Now we have to figure out how to extract uh, Israel, Gaza, West Bank, Ukraine, all the time. It's just a continuing cycle of violence begetting violence. The answers are there, okay, and I'll get into it more. But the answers can be found, as I said before, in authentic religion, authentic spirituality, and even authentic science. Okay, relativity, Einstein, and so forth. All of this works together to produce, it can produce peace, or can, just like in our dual natures, we can use it for good or we can use it for evil. Okay? The latest world religion is the Baha'i faith. Study the Baha'i teachings. It has the solutions for peace for today. Okay? Nothing different than the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, except that it relates to today's world. Okay? Global society. Okay? Or if you don't like religion, study the teachings of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Okay? His teachings were about oneness. His teachings, he got his inspiration from authentic Christianity, authentic Hinduism, Gandhi, and so forth. Okay? Instead of what would Jesus do, I think to myself, what would MLK do? Okay? He gave us the solutions. And by the way, he's one of only two people in human history that produced a nonviolent revolution. Yes, he sacrificed his life, which all of the true prophets and visionaries have done, okay? But for the sake of nonviolence, he saved millions of lives and accomplished great things. That was a nonviolent revolution. So the answers are there. If you want them, I'm going to be doing workshops on peace, on how to produce peace. Okay, stay tuned. Stay tuned for a podcast, doing Zoom workshops, doing in-person workshops. Not only me, but people of similar goodwill who are advocating for true peace. Okay, not just political peace. Okay, just electing, certain people into office is not going to produce peace. But there are more peaceful than more violent choices, okay, that are realistic as well. We could talk more about that. Ciao.